The links join channel here over at subscribe so I got a mailbox to if you want to mail some comics or pocket knives or something cool. So Star Wars Ahsoka diverse vagina power. The short version of this is well, it sucks. That's the shortest of short versions. This is not a show that is going to turn Disney around. I think the point of these streaming shows is to get people pumped up for to get people to buy Disney Plus for sure. Also to sell toys and merchandise and T-shirts and coffee mugs, all that kind of stuff that goes along with something that is a really connects with an audience. But it's also to whet people's appetite to get them for the big screen release because the big screen releases nowadays are over $200 million. Like they might even be $300 million for to Disney to make a movie, a Star Wars movie, the way they want to do that. And because of the vibe for Disney in general, for them to put $250 million into a movie, a Disney movie, is a big risk. And I know they have the Mary Sue movie coming up, but I suspect that's going to be probably a lower budget movie. So I don't think this is the show that's going to turn Disney around. And yeah, I know that there are great reviews for it right now. It's like people on Twitter. Everything on Twitter is free. The reviews are free for people to put a couple lines out there. It doesn't. It's not like you come see what happens in 3 months if the audience is. I don't know when they're releasing the episodes. They'll probably do like one a week or something like this. See if the audience is still there. I don't think they're going to be. I don't think that this sells Disney like it's supposed to be. It's too many women. It's just like all women. It's just a bunch of 130-pound, 42-year-old women running around. That's kind of the whole vibe. Just a bunch of like, I want to say angry Karens type of like soccer mom type of chicks. It's too diverse, and probably I'm pretty sure the other channels are not going to say that, but that's not really a selling point for people. In fact, I have PTSD from diverse woke movies because I know if they're just Mary Sue's and purse puppies. So let me sneak that in there if YouTube will allow it. It's the first episode is unwatchably bad. You're gonna get like 20 minutes into it and just go, oh, I don't know if I can hang with this. But I had to. Otherwise, I would have tuned it out. I mean, otherwise, if I wasn't gonna talk about it, I wouldn't have watched it at all. There's a woman as a general. Yeah, you're just not selling that to people like at all. And I mean, you can't sell a woman as a general. It just doesn't like it. I know it's woke and all this. That's just not what women are, unless it's kind of a like I mean, like they didn't get there on merit is all I'm saying. Is it good? It's diverse, which in case you don't know nowadays is code for no, it's not good. It sucks. It doesn't have to be good. Like they didn't set out to make a good movie. If they set out to make a good movie, they'd get Han and Luke type of two blonde male characters to go out and go on an adventure. That would be them setting out to make something that sells. This isn't this. This isn't that. This is something else entirely. It's Star Wars in name only. Yeah, you get the sounds and the sets. It looks like Star Wars. Yeah, watch a few minutes of it. It's not Star Wars. And the thing is, if you criticize something diverse and full of vagina, then you're yikes, my guy. Bad take, friendo. Not a good look. Yikes, just yikes. Go touch grass. You've never touched a woman, have you? It's like the show sucks. I mean, like insulting the people who are honest about the show. And there were a few people on Twitter who were being honest about like, so it's like a dozen women going after two bad guys. Yeah, that's good luck with that. So they killed Star Wars. Maybe they can find some soy boys and cat lady. I don't even think the soy boys are going to be on board with this because the women aren't hot. It's just all girl power. It's all like real mediocre 38 to 45-year-old women running around in jumpsuits. that's that's a real hard sell for a lot of people. It's just not going to be on board with that. I think it's going to be cat ladies are going to be on board with it at least for a little while. I honestly think Disney is in deep shit because big companies, $150 billion companies like that, are like large ships. Changing course, slowing down, doing anything with that ship, that really has to be plotted out miles ahead of time. And what Disney is headed towards the rocks right now. It's like it might take 5 or 10 years to get there, but they're not changing course. They're just accelerating into it. And I know Rosario Dawson has a huge fan base, and so far everyone on Twitter who says there are some the people on Twitter say the show is great, but the reviewers on YouTube, a lot of them are saying the show sucks, and they're saying that but she did a great job in it. They're only saying that because she's a pox walks woman of diversity. They're lying. They're lying because they have big channels. They don't want to get in trouble. They don't want to attract the wrong kind of heat from people who will complain to YouTube for whatever. She sucks balls in it. And I've seen her in Clerks too, where she did a great job. She sucks in this. I think everyone sucks. All the women in this really sucks, especially that general. God, she is horrible. She has no gravitas whatsoever, and it's just a woman. It's like you just can't make women are just not designed for these kind of roles. Like the only reason you did it is because it's just like woke propaganda. Nobody believes a woman can be a general. It's derivative in every. If you're like there are women generals, are there really? I mean, yes, they have the titles. Did they really get there on merit? Really? Did they really get there on merit? I'll have you know. All right, I don't know anything about it. I'm just guessing. I'm just guessing because everything else I've seen about the world. Did they get there on merit? Hey, if you're in the military, you tell me. You tell me if they got there on merit. If you say they did, then my bad. I was mistaken. But I'm guessing they didn't. So it's just not. You just like you see something in a movie that is so counter to what you see in the real world. You're like, yeah, the reason men go out on these dangerous adventures and soldiers and wars and all this is because biologically speaking, young men are very expendable because it just takes one man to impregnate many women. Men can impregnate women from like 15 to 70 if there's some in some cases they're still able to. Rarely, but you get the idea, or at least up to 60s. But that's why they're so biologically expendable because women carry the young. It's like that's hardwired into our brains. So when we see women doing these kind of roles, we're like, oh, this is just woke Hollywood playing dress up. And yeah, I mean, maybe it's not politically correct, but I know the audience is listening to this. Like, exactly what I'm talking about, and you're thinking the same thing. The funny thing is, there was some buzz about this, and I guess because of the video games, I stupidly assumed that this was going to be good. It's not. I had no idea Disney was this bad. It's people were, I guess they really liked the character, so they were expecting to see the stuff they liked on screen, and whatever they liked about the video game does not translate into Disney Plus. This feels like a low budget daytime soap opera where the acting is really rough because they can most scenes are just first take scenes. That's what a lot of this felt like. Like it didn't feel like a polished production. I know it's a streaming show. It's not going to be as polished. It felt like a little bit like amateur hour. It felt like a mix. It was a step above amateur hour, but it didn't feel like professional actors doing roles. It felt like a high grade soap opera where it was made for cat ladies. There's a scene where the chick who is too cool for school, she's riding her little motorbike, and then she comes home because chicks on motorcycles, yeah. She comes home and she feeds her cat, which is super kawaii cute. It was made to sell plushie dolls like Baby Yoda was in the Mando. Here's the thing: it's not Star Wars. The sets are Star Wars, but that's it. When you watch it, you see a woke Hollywood diversity checklist of purse puppies. They're just going down the line and making sure they have enough representation matters to us. Oh yeah, but it doesn't matter to us. It doesn't sell to me at all. It's like I get triggered when I see representation. I just want to see all blonde hair, blue eyed people. Can I get that? No, absolutely not. But it just feels more realistic when it's all one group of people. When you see this, you're just looking at like you're very clearly in a Hollywood studio. Like no part of you thinks you're watching. There's no immersion whatsoever. You're just watching a Hollywood studio and a green screen. You see just a checklist. Like you can see them. Oh, got a black guy over here. Got a Chinese girl over here. Look, another black chick over here. An Indian girl over here. Like, yeah, this is just Earth. This is just, yeah. Star Wars was more believable, and it had verisimilitude when it was almost all European actors like in the original. Why exactly it works like that, that's kind of a longer analysis. I think it deals with tribalism and nationalism versus what is clearly just globalist propaganda, the Bolshevik found family concept. When you're watching something and it feels heavy-handed, eventually it clicks that you're not watching something organic. Organic was the original Star Wars. That felt natural. Han and Luke, Ben, and the space dog go off on the adventure to rescue the hot piece of ass with the big milkers. The men take the risk to go on the adventure. The woman with the jugs is brought into the adventure. She didn't go seeking it, though she did a great job during the adventure and, helping to fight back and, add to it. But the focus is on the men, as it should be, because men are interesting. Women are just there to be rescued and to be sexy. They're the spice, not the main meal. Halfway through the first episode, it's unwatchably boring. It's all women and poxwalks, purse puppies. You're not watching Star Wars. You're watching the Hollywood checklist of, black, Chinese, Mexican, Indian, whatever. It's just a bunch of, people from around the world that very clearly feels just like, this stuff is so bad now. And if you're a kid and this is your only exposure to Star Wars, like Disney, if they could erase the original Star Wars so you could never go back and watch it, because if you're a kid and you're watching this, you think this is okay, then you go watch the originals, you're like, wait a minute, why come the original in '77 and where they didn't have CGI, how come it just was amazing, and this is just crap? It's like you got to really kind of think about it and think about it and think about it, and then you come to a conclusion like, because the new stuff is propaganda. Yeah, that's the conclusion. It doesn't have the willing suspension of disbelief. Why are there people from different... And the thing is, like, I'm glad there's nobody like left-wing soy boys listening to this, because they'll be like, you hate diversity? Yeah, I get PTSD from diversity. Why are there people from different parts of the galaxy, but they're all together, just exactly like this was like filmed in California, a group of all different people who hate each other? None of that sells it to people. I'm just seeing Los Angeles on screen and I hate it. It doesn't work at all. It's not Star Wars. It's Hollywood doing Star Wars. There's a big difference to that, and you see this in everything from Hollywood lately. A great example was, what was that Stephen King movie they just made, The Dark Tower? It's like Dark Tower's 7 books, right? And they combined 7 books into one movie. Like, that's not working at all. And it was based on roughly Clint Eastwood is going through multiple dimensions of he starts out in the old Wild West and picks up a sidekick. But it's like very clearly it's Clint Eastwood going through the Wild West, but it's set in a galaxy far, far away. And so Clint Eastwood, that's very firmly established. Yeah, the hero's journey through 7 books. Great. So you got Isra Alba or something, some black guy to play the role. That's not Clint Eastwood. It's a whole different. No, humans are fungible. But they're not. Humans have millions of connections to other concepts and things and history, and replacing one for another, you just can't do that. It cuts off all of those connections, and you don't reestablish new connections, because the black guy has no connection to these old spaghetti westerns. He's not in them. Clint Eastwood was literally in those spaghetti westerns that the movie was set on. Anyway, they do this thing where they go to some village. One of the villages in the first movie, where they kind of, in the first book, where they kind of turn into zombies, and he's got to blast them all with his 2 6-shooters, and you go to the village, and it's like, hey, a Chinese woman is married to a black guy, and they've got kids, and everyone, hey, blacks and Asians and Indians and Mexicans. Yeah, this is just Earth. It's not an old Wild West village, set 100 years ago. Like, it's not like the books. It's not like anything. It's just a Hollywood checklist. And so you ask, why are all these people together, people who look clearly different? You have a Chinese woman and an African man together. So you just happen to catch all these people in the first generation of meeting, and they form this village, but they're all different from around the world. But you just happen to catch them in their first generation before they've had kids, because after 5 generations, they're all going to look the same. And they do that in Hollywood all the time, where you just are happening to catch this Bolshevik found family of all these people at the first stage of their meeting together, because after several generations, they would just look like, all the same group of people. But that repeatedly happens in Hollywood, and like, it takes all the willing suspension of disbelief, and it just throws it all away, because you're seeing propaganda, because you are. You're very much aware that a bunch of cat lady SJWs got together to write this, and they're vaguely familiar with Star Wars, but it's got too much masculinity in it and too many white people, and they can fix it by erasing the European actors and replacing them with non-European actors. I said a lot of hot words in this video. The whole time you're aware that you're watching a show and it's a bad one, and you can envision the soy-filled BuzzFeed women who wrote this. It's like all the chicks. There's a scene in She-Hulk where they go. She-Hulk goes behind the CGI character goes behind the scene to the actual writers' room with the actual writers, and there's like a dozen of these cat ladies and soy boys who are sitting around a table, and you look at them, you're like, yeah, you guys look exactly like I imagined. Just the most hateful, bitter collection of Trump derangement syndrome type of people. This is a. I mean, I would love to. I actually saw George Lucas at a bar once in I forget what was it, like San Sama or something. I would love to be a fly on the wall and to watch George Lucas watch these first two episodes. If he can even bring himself to watch it, it would be friggin' hysterical. Anyway, so there's this grating, annoying feeling with women in the scenes where it's just there's just too much women for too long. You're waiting for the men to come along and make it interesting, but they never do. It's just it feels like what was that? Euro trip. The women never came. It's just boring cat ladies who are not believable as badasses. And women are not badasses. It's painful to see women try to play that role. There is, she's a 130-pound general. She's 5'6". Like, yeah, I don't. So you were a soldier. You start off and you worked your way up through the ranks until you finally went to officer school or whatever, and then worked your way up from cap or lieutenant to captain to major to I don't know whatever's above colonel to like the major colonel or the whatever's under the general, and then you made your way up to general and then joint chiefs. Like you worked your way up. It usually takes 40 years to do that. Like you start at private and you go all the way up to general, whatever. And she's like some 42-year-old chick who's 130 pounds. So wow, you survived all that years and years of combat, huh? And now you're a general. Yeah, you're not selling it to me. Women are designed to be mommies and raise kids. The whole time you're wondering why these women are running around pretending to be men when they should be home taking care of their family. Seriously, Disney, it feels like Disney is trying to go out of business. I honestly think they're just these lizard people who are controlled by demons. The only thing that can save Disney are white males. You need as many blonde-haired, blue-eyed people as you can get. Just as many people in general. The original Star Wars, Han, Luke, and Leia. Yeah. Get a couple hundred people that look pretty much like them and put those in all your shows going forward, and you might have a chance to turn this around. They're just the most interesting characters because they got there on merit because they're allowed to succeed, which all purse puppies can succeed, but they're also allowed to fail, where Pox Walk's characters can't fail because I'm a woman, hear me roar. These actors didn't. It doesn't feel like they got their own merit. And there's a lot of stuff in this that doesn't make sense. Stuff that only kind of works in 1977 when you're introduced to the universe and you think it's only going to be 3 films. And the thing is, when movies are good, you don't ask questions. You're just along for the ride. When they're not good, you start looking around because you're bored. And it happened with the Disney trilogy. You're looking at Mary Ray Sue and Finn, and you start poking holes in the plot and poking holes in the logic of it. And there's a ton of logical problems because the movie's just not enjoyable. It's the same way with this. There's a scene where one ship, a pursuing ship, is getting close to another ship and drops a tracking device. But it seems like the other ships by now would be aware of that risk when a ship gets too close. It's like you don't have sensors on the ship that can determine when something's tracking you, or like wouldn't you send a droid out there at least to check the ship and scan the ship and remove it? Or the ships have shields. Wouldn't the shields prevent the tracking device from attaching in the first place? And in the first trilogy, you don't ask these kind of questions because the movie is so the characters are so good. The movie is so fast. You're just along for the ride. You're having a great time with the original trilogy. But now, I mean, it's 50 years later. You've got to have all the plot details worked out. And like there are plot holes in the original Lucasfilm for sure. It's like everything was just fast. I mean, there was a ton of problems with it, but you didn't pause to look at the problems because the characters were lightning in a bottle. They were so good. And nowadays, when you're making a movie with the Disney universe, you're not going to get that lightning in a bottle characters. The 3 main characters, Harrison Ford and Mark Hamill and the rest, you're not going to get that chemistry ever again. That's why they call it. It's just so friggin' rare. So you have to make sure that the story is bulletproof because people. people are going to be looking behind the scenes, and you have to make sure the pacing is good and everything is good. And it's like they just are incapable of doing that because everything to Disney is propaganda. We've got to have women. We've got to go down this checklist. Okay, there's got to be so many black guys. Then we've got to have Asian, Chinese, East Asian, Chinese. Then we've got to have Indian, and then we've got to have, and that's it. It's like it's just the checklist. And you're like, but what about making the show good? It's like we can't do all of that. We can't make it good also, and they don't. They don't. And I know these people are totally on board with it, but it's not like you're going to show the. There are people on Twitter who are saying like what I'm saying is like it's just a bunch of women going out after running around after this bad guy. And so whenever they say that, it's just an immediate personal attack. But put your finger inside a woman. That I mean, that won't make the movie better. Kind of a distraction if you're watching. Go touch grass. That doesn't improve the movie. It's immediate personal insult. You're like, but you're not addressing the show, and these people on Twitter are trying to address the show. Anyway, the thing is, Disney hates the old Star Wars. If they could find a way to get rid of the old Star Wars, they absolutely would, because all you have to do is go back and watch the old Star Wars. And you're like, oh, this kicks ass. And then you look at the new stuff. You're like, whoa, what did you guys do here? Why are you doing this? And then you start looking at what Disney's doing across the board with their Marvels movies. You go, but those movies aren't selling. Marvels with the Eternals. God, I can't even name all the Marvels movies. There's like, out of the past 6 that came out, I think like one was a hit. The Guardians of the Galaxy was a hit, but then Black Widow. I know Black Adam's is DC, but that failed also. Shang-Chi, I think, just broke even. Like a bunch of those movies either barely broke even or they didn't break even. It's like, yeah, you're gonna have to turn that around. You guys are, you're a publicly traded company, right? Right? Are you guys planning on turning any of this around anytime soon? You're like, Solo bombed. It actually lost money. You own Marvel, you own Star Wars, Pirates of the Caribbean, Indiana Jones. You should be printing money. Why aren't you printing money? Because they're making propaganda. Anyway. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks to everyone who's been sending me stuff. And I will see you guys all next episode.